Florida has emerged as a national blueprint in the fight against human trafficking, setting a new standard for how states can confront this horrific crime. Today, we're speaking with a woman who has been a driving force in protecting survivors and supporting those caught in the sex industry. Bloom Health Club starts now.
From the Stream Center, welcome to Bloom Health Club, sponsored by Monticello Family and Sedation Dentistry.
Health Club. I'm your host, Gayle Guyardo. Today we're focusing on a crucial issue, the state of human trafficking in the state of Florida and nationwide. And I am joined by a woman who has made it into the Hall of Fame. Joining me now is the founder of the HeartDance Foundation, Dotti Groover Skipper. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Gayle, for having me here. It's always a pleasure.
Well, first of all, Dotti, congratulations on making it into Florida's Hall of Fame. I mean, when you walk into the state capitol, Dotti's picture is right there. I know you started the Heart Foundation, HeartDance, many moons ago as a grassroots effort. Now you are known at the local, state, and national level for your efforts. Tell me about that.
Yes, it is surreal to see your portrait hanging in the rotunda of the Florida Capitol building, and it's such an honor, and I'm still pinching myself because it did start over 40 years ago when there was not even a label of human trafficking. You know, nobody knew what it was, but I met a young girl, 13-year-old, who she was being trafficked by her grandmother, and her 4-year-old sister both were being trafficked by their grandmother, and the 4-year-old had a sexually transmitted disease. So that was my foray into this world. Once you see it, it's hard to turn away from it and not see it. But I really believe that the Lord really plucked a string in my heart to go forward and to be in this field. And then about 18 years ago, I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to go where the women who might be trafficked are. So I had a divine directive to go into the strip clubs of Tampa Bay and to seek and find the women, and many of them are trafficking victims. So it's been a journey.
I want to bring in our director and producer of Bloom, Nacha Castillo. Thank you so much for being part of this and behind the scenes switching. I know you're going to jump in with some questions, but I have to say, I think it's so fascinating. And I want, Dotti, for you to share how you guys do this. Going into the strip clubs, when I tell people that you do this, they're like, how? Like, how are they even let in?
Yeah, we're amazed too. But the managers love us coming in because they say they want to keep the women happy, and the women absolutely love us coming in. Our team, we go straight back to the dressing room. We bring gifts for them. We bring faith-based children's books for their kids. They want to read faith-based children's books to their children. So they're happy. You know, they invite us into the dressing room. Many times they will say, can we pray together? And there'll be all of us standing in a circle in the dressing room praying over these precious women and their children. We're still in awe that management wants us to come in. We've only been kicked out of 2 strip clubs in 18 years, so I think that's pretty good. And both of them were very high-end, very visible clubs here in Tampa, and I think they thought we were getting a little too close to finding out some of the things that are going on. There were beautiful women. Every time we go in, it'd be a different set of women from Ukraine, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, and didn't even know what city that they were in. So that obviously is a big red flag that they were on a circuit, you know, for trafficking. So we think that's pretty good. Only 2 clubs out of 18 years, and we're welcomed into the clubs here in Tampa.
You know, I've actually witnessed firsthand this type of initiative, and I think the thing that I was most taken aback by is the fact that when everyone walks into these dressing rooms and they're surrounded by these women, the draw that they have to you.
Yes.
They really want someone to love them in a way that is not sexual. It's almost like they see a mother type figure and they're drawn to it. And it almost brings tears to my eyes, because I think a lot of people are used to the sex they see at a Hollywood level and what strip clubs get glorified, but they don't really understand what is going on and the headspace that many of these women are in.
Right. We have found throughout the years anecdotally that the majority of the women who were working in the strip clubs were sexually abused as children. And interestingly enough, our men of valor who go out with us, they don't go inside the club, but they stay out in the parking lot, and they build relationship with the door guys, the bouncers, the DJs. Many of the men that are working in the industry were also sexually abused as children. So that's the common thread. And many of them have just not found a way out. Their vulnerabilities have landed them where they are. And it's really challenging for them to get out of that lifestyle. But we come along, I think, just to hear, even if it's 2 or 3 minutes of truth and life, spoken over them, it gives them hope. And we all need to have hope. So I think that's what we do. We shine the light of love and hope and let them know that we're there. Whether they're ready to get out or not at that point, we will help them with the needs that they have. Many of them have needs for their children, or to pay rent, or a safe and stable place to live. And as we've talked before, many of the women have felony records for things they've been forced to do, and it's very challenging for them to get safe and stable housing or respectable, gainful employment.
And Dotti, I was going to jump in. I wanted to ask you, I think a lot of people maybe could think that this is a path that people go down certain paths, but you mentioned a lot of this or certain cases starting in childhood. So what's the statistic that you've kind of seen working with this of familial trafficking that maybe started with substances or trading for goods, for money, things like that?
Familial trafficking is one of the most prevalent ways that our kids are lured into a trafficking situation. Somebody that they love and trust. It could be a trusted family friend. It could be an uncle, an aunt, a parent, a grandmother, which was my case 40 plus years ago. It was a grandmother. And I think that's one reason why it goes so undetected, because the kids are told not to tell the family secrets. So they don't. So I think that's one reason it goes unnoticed by so many. That, and along with online grooming and social media, that's a whole nother topic, really. But those two areas are the most prevalent ways that our kids are lured into a trafficker's snare.
Just on a personal level, many moons ago, I went alongside a walk that you organized to educate people and raise money about human trafficking. There was law enforcement there. I think at the time there was a lead principal of a school. Everybody comes together to kind of raise awareness about this. And I met a woman that you rescued, and she told me that she did have a record that needed to be expunged. She didn't have any hope. And at that time, she was working in corporate America. She looked like any one of us. That's and right. She was like, I'm raising my son now. My life is different. All it took is one break. And, you have attorneys that volunteer their time, and you're bringing together all of these resources. You're really saving one life at a time, and you're doing it again and again and again, which is why your portrait hangs at our state capitol. So you do have a profound impact on the lives of people who are being trafficked. And I also think it's very interesting that you work so closely with law enforcement and people in the private sector. You've created almost a community of folks that are listening to what you're saying, and they're seeing the problem and they're taking action. And we're seeing it in the news with major arrests here in the state of Florida that are making national headlines of young children being trafficked.
Yes. First, I just want to clarify, it's not me that's rescuing. It's, a team of individuals. There's so many warriors out there and survivors, victims who've become survivors, who become thrivers, that are now going back into the darkness to help with those rescues. We have several survivors on our HeartDance team. Our outreach director, Tara, comes out of the industry, and now she is the one leading our teams now back into the clubs to minister to the women whose shoes she used to fill. So it's a team effort for sure. And I think there's so much more awareness today than there was 40 years ago, that people are realizing that it's not like in the movies, that it is real, and that we need to do something about it. So it truly is a team effort, and collaboration in the community is key to putting these bad guys away. We talked earlier about the 122 kids that were just recovered, and 57 of them were from Tampa Bay. That 47% of the kids that were just rescued in Home for the Holiday sting operation over the last 2 weeks were Tampa Bay kids. So it's happening right here under our noses. And as we talked before, it is a lot of familial trafficking, people that they trust, and also online grooming.
I know that in the state of Florida, I want to talk about the success that we have, because every time I hear about one of these rings being busted, I'm like, thank God, there's so much progress being made. I know there is a lot of local law enforcement, but even law enforcement that comes in from a federal level to help with these types of operations. And when I spoke to Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Chronister, he told me that we can be out there doing our job every single day, but without organizations like yours, a lot of these people would find themselves right back on the streets again, being re-victimized.
That's right. If you can only imagine the trauma, especially with sex trafficking victims, of someone being raped several times a day, sometimes up to 30 times a day, over and over and over again. Psychologists say it's equivalent to a soldier coming back from war that has severe PTSD. So if you can imagine the help that they need in so many different aspects, but especially mental health, to help them cope and try to grasp what's happened to them, and then how to deal with it. If they don't know where to go for that help, or the resources, or even an organization or someone to help them navigate through all the many resources, unfortunately, I think a lot of them would go back, because they just don't know where else to turn. And you go back to what's familiar to you normally. Yeah.
And so many of these young people have been groomed starting at such a young age.
Yes.
And that is their normal.
Yes.
Sadly.
That is. I know the youngest in this last sting operation was 2 years old. 2 years old. And it reminded me of a woman I met in the strip club, one of our strip clubs several years ago. She was 18 when I met her, but she confided in me that she had been groomed by her uncle when she was very, very small. Her mother left her with him while the mom went to work. She trusted her brother would take care of her little girl, and he would put her on a swing in the park almost daily, tell her to wait for the nice man to come along that would take her for ice cream. The nice man would come along, rape her, and then put her back on the swing for the next one. She was 6 years old. 6 years old, and she now found herself at 18 in the strip clubs because nobody was there for her, and she was still feeling invisible. So I think that's, probably the greatest thing I think that HeartDance Foundation does, and some of the other organizations that go into the strip clubs, is we see them. We see them without judgment. So many people will judge them. Oh, they want to be there. They've chosen to be there, but that's typically not the case. So I think they love us so much because we we see them.
I know there are many, many people of all walks. Like you said, there's a community, there are warriors, there are people that genuinely care about the well-being of the people that are being trafficked. But there is a lot of faith-based community that steps out into these very seedy scenes. They walk into them, and they walk by faith. Tell me about how that plays such a big role in your life.
Oh, it plays a huge role. I tell people I was either stupid or courageous enough to say yes to the call when I heard very clearly when I encountered this 13-year-old and her 4-year-old sister who was trafficked by their grandmother to get involved and not to turn my back on it 40 plus years ago. And I think there are many of us that are just trying to do our best to be obedient to that from which we are called to do, and being bold enough and courageous enough to say, okay, you really want me to go there? You really want me to go into those strip clubs? I grew up in a very happy Christian home, and I never even imagined that anybody grew up any different from me. And so I thought, certainly you don't want me going into the strip clubs, but the Lord, I feel like the Lord did. And I said yes, and was courageous enough. There's so many people that are bold and courageous enough to follow what they think that they're supposed to do to get this work done. And it truly is a calling. It's not something I chose. It's something that chose me. And I just feel very blessed from all the wonderful survivors that I've come to know, and they have blessed me, I think, more than I have blessed them. And now seeing them thrive and giving back, to our society. And several survivors are on our team, and one in particular, she now is a major part of those sting operations with the U.S. Marshals, that she trains law enforcement, and she is an integral part of these sting operations. And because of her lived experience, expertise, and being bold and courageous enough to use her tragedy and turning it into triumph, not only for her, but for all of the incredible men and women that she's able to get out of situations.
Yeah, and the situations are very dark. I want to keep going back because most people's, familiarity with what's going on is what they see on TV. And strip clubs can seem very, sexy or whatnot. That's not what I saw when I walked into it. It's a very dark environment. You can see on the faces of these girls that many of them do not want to be there. Mm-hmm. At least I didn't see a face that looked like they wanted to be there, to be honest with you. And then the desperation of what it's like when they come up to you, like they're trying to say, they are saying, save me, save me, save me. So you build up this trust. Mm-hmm. It takes time. It's not always one visit. And then you're able to bring them into a safe place and start the reform, start getting them healed. Because people are like, why, Gayle, are you always putting human trafficking on a health and wellness show? It is considered a healthcare crisis. Absolutely. Because of the physical and mental abuse that is endured.
Absolutely. And, safety, a public health safety issue is what this is. I mean, think about a woman in a strip club who goes, the only way to make true money in a strip club is to cross the line into prostitution, to go into the champagne rooms and the VIP rooms and be prostituted. Can you imagine, getting raped or having sexual relations with strangers many, many, many times a night? Can you imagine the health implications there? So it is a public health and safety issue.
Dotti, I wanted to ask, outside of the strip clubs, what are some things that we, everyday people can watch for, clues that we could specify, that we could kind of catch, that we may be like, oh, maybe this is shady. There's some human trafficking going on here, whether it is something with familial trafficking or or any different situation at a hospital, at a cafe, at a mall?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. And, there's so many different nuances. If our homeless youth are very vulnerable, and what we have seen is, a youth might come out to his parents or her parents as being gay, and they get kicked out of the house, and now they're on the street, and who comes up to them but someone who says, we can be your family, we'll take care of you. So if you see an individual taking care of maybe, a few homeless youth, that might be a red flag, on the streets to kind of look for. If you see an older man with a younger child, and the child it just seems like they don't belong together, that could be a red flag. There's so many different situations, like I explained, like on the playground. If you see a child that doesn't seem like they go with the adult that's with them, that could be a red flag. There's so many different situations, and I just want to encourage everyone that if you do feel something in your gut isn't right, then pick up the phone and call either the local authorities. You can call 911 if it's something that you're seeing right then and there. And you can report anonymously, too. You don't have to give your name and your contact information, but go ahead and make that call. If you're wrong, you're wrong. But if you're right, you could be saving a life. The massage industry, I just want to touch on that. I'm honored to be appointed by our governor to the Florida Board of Massage, and we see a lot of cases come before us of human trafficking activity going on in some of our massage establishments. So if a massage establishment is open like past midnight, if there's a lot of heavy tint on the windows, if it looks like maybe somebody is living there, those are some signs to look out for. If you have to be buzzed in, if the door is not unlocked and you have to be buzzed in, that's a sign to look for too, that there might be other things going on in that establishment than just massages.
You are such a long-standing not-for-profit in the Tampa Bay area with such an incredible reputation, Dotti, the HeartDance Foundation. How can we support you? How can we get behind your mission?
Well, I think one thing legislatively that we are working on right now, a group of us, I'm with a statewide legislative working group. We want to see that anybody who buys or sells another human being, it should be a felony record. I mean, it should be a felony, not a misdemeanor.
Right.
So we're working on getting it upped to a felony. There's a lot of great laws in place for children, but this would be for adults. So we're working on that. HeartDance Foundation always could use financial donations. None of us get paid. It is, I've never received a penny from the work that we do through HeartDance. We're all volunteers, so any financial donations are great. We always can use $20 Wawa cards and faith-based children's books. That would help tremendously.
Well, I have to say, Dotti, as always, it's an honor. I can't congratulate you enough for all of the accolades you receive, especially the latest one of being in Florida's Hall of Fame for your tireless work in saving lives. You've left the most beautiful footprint on this planet, and I wish there were more people like you.
Oh, thank you, Gayle. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank
Well,
you.
listen, I want to thank our sponsor, Monticello Family and Sedation Dentistry, for believing in us to help us get this content out to you. And remember, you can always stream Bloom Health Club. Watch our streaming show on Apple TV, Fire TV, Roku, Samsung TV, WFLA.com, and YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. And I will see you on the next Bloom Health Club.